With enemies colliding into the player and a little bit of visual effects, the tinting of the red, the camera shake, that's all good. But it would be nice to be able to keep track of how that is playing out so that our player character would have some type of a health bar. So to that end, we'll just make one. Because why not? We can. So we just make our class. Now this isn't going to inherit from anything, so it doesn't need a super. But it will need a constructor where we will pass in the scene, pass in X, we'll pass in Y, and we're going to pass in a value which will be the current health or the starting health as we work with it. Using current health for the term because as we start subtracting from it, it becomes the current health value we're using. And also, if we take a health bar and say we go from one scene to another scene to another scene, each scene having, say, a different tile map, we could pass in the health of the players so that as we respawn the player, we can assign the health at that point of like, this is what the health is going to be for that object. So now let's populate this. So this dot scene equals scene. No. Auto-completion is not always helpful. Now, this dot current health is going to be equal to the health value that we passed into it. This dot x is going to be equal to the x. This dot y is going to be equal to the y. So the majority of the code in this example is going to be contained inside our constructor. We will have an update where we're going to then change things as we update our health value, but this is where we start things. So we are going to create a new graphics that we can work with. And this graphics is going to be for our, we're going to have our health bar and our health bar fill. So we have the two items that we are working with. So this dot scene dot add, because one will be the background for the health bar, the kind of frame around it, and one will be the actual like changing bar within it. So we do that. So new graphics will be this dot scene dot add dot graphics. So auto-completion is nice when we have, two lines in a row that are almost the same because that helps us out. So I'll have our health bar background, and that is going to be a new phaser dot geometry object dot rectangle. And now I have experimented with it before, and I know on this size artwork and map that these values give me nice placement for the bar. So it's 32 pixels over from the corner. It's going to be at the Y value we pass into it, which I'm realizing now I just need to adjust because I constructed the health bar and then I kept changing the number here. I should have changed the number of where we made it, and then it would just be X, but we'll probably go back and fix that in a little bit. So our health bar fill is going to be a new phaser.geometry.rectangle, and then this one is going to be over 2 pixels more, so it's 34, because the fill is 2 pixels smaller all the way around. So this now is going to be Y plus 2, and then it's going to be set up as this dot current health will be how big we want it, but technically, I mean, we're assuming that, our default, we're always going to be starting with 100 for the size of the health bar. but then if we construct this with a lower amount, that's why we can do it. So if we make a second health bar as we go into a new scene and we reconstruct it, when we pass in our health value to add it, then it's not hard coding it, but we know that the whole health bar is set up for a 100 pixel wide initial starting value. So that's where those numbers come from. And then this .graphics.fill style, we are going to specify the color, and we'll just fill it with transparent white. So 6Fs and then 0.5. So it's 50% transparent white. New graphics fill style will be 0x. And played around with some color options and some other color mixers to come up with that 3587E2, and this will be fully opaque. So we set our two fill styles, and this dot, actually I want to put it here, graphics fill rect shape, and it will be a progress bar. No, sorry, not progress bar, our health bar background. And this dot new graphics fill rect shape, in this case, will then be our health bar fill. So this rectangle goes into that shape. We have now the two colors, so graphics and new graphics. And finally, what I want to do is put some text on screen. So this dot scene dot add dot text, and then we'll put it at x, y plus, not xy, y plus 2, so it's centered. And then we'll put the word health as part of it, and I want to then specify a size, so font size, and I will do it at 8 pixels, and we will do a fill color. We'll try right now and see how that looks, of white. So that now adds it. So that now gives me the core health bar. This is good. We do have to remember to add it. So we add our health bar, and then we need to add it in our scene as well. So let's pop up over to here, and we can say this dot health bar, and then we can add that health bar. Now, because things are added in order, probably want to put this at the end of create so it sits on top of everything else, because the default stacking of artwork as it gets rendered on screen is going to be the order it's listed in our create statement. So health bar, so this dot health bar is going to be equal to a new health bar, and we'll pass in the scene, and I will pass in 20 for my X and 18 for my Y. Save that. Line 3 in health bar is unhappy. Line 3, oh, because I don't know how to spell scene. That would make sense with that. And now we can see we have no current health because we also did not pass any value in when we started with it. And we need to add a starting value. So if I pass in a value of 100, which is the health, ultimately I think we are going to want to pass in the value of And now we can see the bar is blue. So that's good. So we now have a health bar. What would be better is to have a health value that is attached to our player so that as our scene is unfolding and we are modifying the player's health, then the player has it. And again, if we go from scene to scene, when we construct the player, we pass a value in during that construction statement. So to that end, what I want to add to the player is going to be this dot health equals health. So that's in the player class. And when I construct the player, we'll put health in there. Now, if I go back to my game scene, let's go find adding the player. So now we can pass in this case, I could pass in a number, or we can pass in a value later, but in this case we will pass in that 100. So now the player has a health value of 100. Now to verify that's indeed working, I'm just going to log it out. So this dot player dot health. So when I save that, let's see what happens over here, and undefined. So it's not finding it just yet. And it's not finding it because when I go into the player, the autocomplete put this. So we said a new variable is equal to that same new variable, which means it's not going to give me anything. Now let's see, hey, 100, there it is. So when we created the player, the instance of the player, we tacked on a value which was the health for that player. So that's good, it's working. All right, so we're making a lot of progress here. What we probably want to do is we want to make it so that when we run into enemies, so when we have the player and enemy collision occur, we want the player to take damage. But what would be really fun is if our different enemies provide a different kind of or amount of damage. And that means when we set this up, so let's go wander into the enemy class here. So we're kind of going between a bunch of different things. We have our health bar, we got it working. We don't have it updating yet because we don't have any way to take things away from it, because we want each enemy to have a damage value so that when we pass a value into this, it's a damage value. So then I can just simply say this dot damage is going to be equal to damage, like that. So now when I save that, that's good. Now if we go into enemies, let's see, when we're adding a new enemy, let's pass it in. Let's say these enemies just have a damage value of 10. But this enemy, the untinted one, let's give it a damage value of 50. So that's good. All right. So now, every time the player is hit, what we want to do is say p.health minus equals e.damage. Because the player has a health value, the enemy has a damage value, so we want to subtract that. And then we're just going to log out p.health. So let's save that. And now start running into some 40, wow, yeah. When we hit the, okay, 30, 20, this is good, except our health bar isn't changing yet. But we can see that our health value is changing, so that's excellent. So we're in really good shape that way. So we're able to subtract our health. We need to update our health bar. So we will be telling the health bar, after we take damage, we'll be telling it to update, but it doesn't know how to update yet. So let's go back into the health bar and constructor, and we'll create a new method here, and this will be update health here. And we'll pass in the scene because we may end up needing it. And we'll pass in a health value that we can use for displaying it. So what we need to do is we're going to clear the graphics that's in the health bar fill. So we're going to change the health bar fill around a little bit and then redraw that on screen. So probably there are more efficient ways to work with the graphics, built-in graphics classes and processing. I mean, we could, for that matter, just be using an image that we're changing the width of it, so we could be scaling it in a, we could scale its X component or its width. That's certainly doable, or we can use the graphics. Whatever method is going to make you the most happy is going to be the right one. So new graphics is for the health bar fill. So we're going to clear it and then repopulate it. So this dot current health is going to be equal to health now, and then we're going to set the new shape. So our health bar fill is going to be a new phaser geometry rectangle, and it is going to be at this dot x plus 34. So it's going to be, everything is the same except the width. Y plus 2, and this dot current health, and height of 8. So it's the same, but the width has changed because we're passing in a different health value. And now this dot new graphics dot fill rect shape is going to be our health bar fill. And I just hit HBF, and then that kind of helped me through the auto completes on that. Okay, so that gives me my health bar. But now we need to update that, and we do that back in our collision here. So now I can say this dot health bar dot update health, this dot scene, and now I need to say this dot scene, not just this, because I'm now in these inside the curly braces here. It gets a little unhappy if I don't. But since we're not really using scene as part of it, we can probably ditch it. I was using scene during an earlier iteration because I was then allowing, I was checking the health so that if the health died after the collisions, then I had all this inside the health bar. But for managing the scenes, it's easier to manage the scenes within. So I'm going to reverse course a little bit. We're just going to ditch that. No point in having something that we're not really using anymore. So save that, go back here. So this now updates the health as part of it. Now let's go into our scene and see what happens when we start colliding. And Y is not defined, 25 on health bar. I'm guessing I forgot of this, and I did. This dot, because up here we don't need this because we're inside the constructor. We used those values. I probably should use those. But down here, because we're now outside of the constructor, we don't have access to just the plain X and Y, so we have to use the class one, so we have to reference it with this. I guess the way around it is we could have done deconstructing, where then it would apply this onto it, but it's all good. And we can see the health is changing. Now, if I refresh this page, the health starts out blue, but then after a collision it goes to white. And if I look here, what I have not done is I have not set, after I cleared it, and just for cleanliness, I like having that first, and then we have all the health bar stuff here. So let's set the fill style once more, and I'll be using the same fill style for the fill here. And actually, what would be more fun would be to go to a different option of, so I'm thinking we turn it to red after we've been hit. Oh, got a little typo while I was trying to figure out my color. So we're blue, and now we can see how the health bar turned red. And maybe we don't want it opaque, 0.8. Let's try that. Click back over here, and that seems to be a little bit better. So once we've lost some health, it's nice that the health bar is, and now we're at a negative health. So at a negative health, we can see, oops, we're getting some problems there because our health bar is going off to the side. So we need to come up with a way of dealing with it. But our update health is working, which is super awesome on it. And I was looking for a color picker to figure out what red color I wanted. Thus, I had my VS extension showing, and I tried using that one. I couldn't get the colors to work well in JavaScript, but if I went into the CSS portion over here, then I could get colors to show up, and there's all kinds of extensions that you can work with to achieve that. Now, what we can do in our health bar, so we update the health bar, and what I want to say is if the player's health is less than or equal to 0, meaning, oops, I died, scary. At that point, what we can say will be this dot restart. And let's see how this works. Let's try it. So let's try and kill our health. I must say the camera shake does add in a pretty nice visual effect. Oh, this dot restart is not a function, probably because the scene dot restart. And I'm going to just set this at 50 so we can die much faster, so we don't have to run after everyone. So if I can just hit, hey, look it, we hit 1, okay, it goes there. Since he takes away 50, boom, and now the scene reset, all the enemies reset, player reset, so the whole thing is going. Now, we can use the same kind of cam and other stuff that we did before that we can see down here with our time delay and everything. So we have all this stuff going on. And we can repeat a similar process here when our health goes down. So I'm going to make 2 calls to the camera here. We're going to shake it a little more violently, then we'll fade it out, and then we will have it restart the game. So to pull that one off, I can simply go this dot cameras dot main dot shake, and this time we'll shake it for well, let's just do pretty small amount of time, but a much more vigorous shake. And then we'll fade it out. We're going to fade it out over 200 milliseconds, and we'll fade to black with that. And then And seeing how many times I just wrote this.cameras.main, I almost think I want to create a variable reference to it instead, but we'll leave it for now. And we have the camera fade out complete, so we're looking for the complete event on that. We'll call the anonymous function with it, and then at this point, this dot scene dot restart, and comment out this one right there. So now, boom, all right. Let's go see line number 98. It got a little bit grumpy with us. Line number 98. Oh, when we're looking for this event, we need to also tell it one time that we want it to happen. And now you saw how it faded to black pretty quick. Boom. Now the whole thing restarts. Must say, with all the enemies going this fast, it is pretty brutal. As we are working through it, you get hit once. So we're working. We have the game kind of resetting. We have a health bar that's working. We have visual effects occurring when the collisions occur. So it's some pretty advanced stuff that's happening here, that this project's starting to shape up. Decided I want to do one more tweak to this. So for the background fill, well, it has the translucent white. I want to make it so that there's a red bar underneath the blue bar. So as the blue bar shrinks, the red bar becomes visible, kind of indicating the damage to the health that's occurring. So we'll just I'll create graphics 2 here. My background 2. Now background 2, this time it needs to line up with this one. So that would be at 34, y plus 2, and it's going to be 100. And it will have a height of 8. So it's matching those dimensions of the health bar fill. Now, what we can do with that is put in graphics 2. Graphics 2 is then going to be filled with the red color 0099. So instead of making it go from blue and then red going down, I just want the red to start showing more and more as it goes down. And we'll make it filled, it's opaque. We have then the blue that sits on top of it's opaque, and I've put this back to 1 instead of 0.8. So now we have the blue that sits on top. The blue will get smaller. The white's there, the red's there. So if we save this and take a look, we can see there it is. And now we are not getting it to work. And it's not working because I forgot to put in my shape. So we had fill style for both of those. Now we need our fill shape where we do background 2, graphics 2. So graphics, graphics 2, graphics, graphics 2, and then new graphics, new graphics. Okay, save. Now this time, well, we don't want to hit the white guy. Okay, good. Now we see the kind of the pink, which fits with the color. It only goes down halfway because if we recall, inside our game scene, we are only taking damage down to 50, but if we go to the full 100, now we can work through, boom, boom, hit those guys. Let's get that guy. Now we can see our health is really going down. One more, and it resets. So we are in business.